Alright guys, I am back yet again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on the Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 1 of my Dark States Griphogila Dragontree deck. So version 1 is everything through the additional special set, so through a fraction of the booster set 11, and the final DLC for this game. Which, this build is the 4th different Dragontree build that I have done. This is the Dark States variant of the deck. So, like the others, it still does focus on stalling out the game until turn 6, when you can do your big overtrigger play. But since this is a Dark States build, in typical Dark States fashion, this deck can build Soul very easily. And then you can use that resource to toolbox a little bit to help you build a good field, and also just increase your overall card advantage in order to help you survive long enough to do your big play. So as always, we'll be going through the deck, and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with the ride deck, just like with the other Dragontree decks, it does have the 5-card ride deck, consisting of your special starter for this deck, along with your 3 Calamity normal orders, and then your overtrigger. So first off, our grade 0 starter is Griphogila. So it has a continuous ability that says this unit gets power plus 2000 for each Calamity card with a different card name in your soul. And then it's got its auto ability that says at the beginning of your main phase, you choose a Calamity card from your ride deck and put it in the soul. Then you can put 3 Calamity cards from soul that were in the ride deck into the ride deck face up. To search your hand or deck for up to 1 Dragontree of Ecliptic Decimation, Griphogila, write it as stand, and if you searched your deck, shuffle your deck. And if you wrote a card, you choose 2 of your rearguard circles and put a Dragontree marker on each of them. So once again, I'm going to assume that you have a basic understanding of the whole Dragontree gimmick. If you want a more in-depth explanation, you can refer to my Dragon Empire Griphogila video. But the quick version, of course, is you just sit on this card until turn 3, and you stick a Calamity from your ride deck into your soul every turn instead of riding. And then on turn 3, you can send all those Calamities back to Superior Ride into your grade 10 Griphogila. So that is the only way to get your main Vanguard into play. And then you get your 2 Dragontree markers as well, which I'll throw up a screenshot of the Dragontree markers. They just give any unit on that circle an extra 5k during your turn, if your Vanguard has Dragontree or Masks in its card name. So very useful in powering up your units, and also just for the deck's overall strategy. So due to the way this starter works, you do end up not being able to do much on your first 2 turns, since you are stuck on grade 0 for those turns. And on turn 3, when you ride into Griphogila, you end up with only 1 card left in your soul. However, in this build, that's not as much of a problem as it is in some of the others, since we have so many ways to build up your soul in this deck. But yeah, this card is necessary for the deck to be able to function. So next up, we have the first of our 3 Calamity orders. So we have 1 of each grade, 1 through 3. And all 3 of them have an ability that never gets used anyway, so I'm not even going to go over it. Each of them are just here to be moved back and forth between your ride deck and soul in order to use your main Vanguard's abilities. So first off, for the grade 1, we have Beginning of the End. Then for the grade 2, we have Ill Omen Transmogrification. And then for the grade 3, we have Coming of Demise. So then the last card in our ride deck is our Overtrigger. So we have Hades Dragon Deity of Resentment, Galmageheld. So his additional effect says you get, during your turn, all of your Vanguards get power plus 10,000, critical plus 1 until end of this fight. So grants an ability to the player, giving you a permanent crit trigger, basically, to your Vanguard, which normally you would want to check into this as early as possible, but we actually don't have that option in this deck since it's in the ride deck and not the main deck. But you will be guaranteed to go into it on turn 6. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck, first off we have the grade 10s. which is just 4 copies of the actual Vanguard for this deck. Dragontree of Ecliptic Decimation, Griphogila. So he has a continuous ability that says during your turn, this unit gets power plus 5,000 for each Dragontree marker on your rearguard circles. And if you have 3 or more Dragontree markers, this unit gets critical plus 1. So you get 2 Dragontree markers from Grifoseed's ability, so you'll need to generate at least 1 more to take full advantage of this and give him the extra crit. We have 2 other cards in the deck that can generate Dragontree markers, so you want to build up as many of those as possible to get Griphogila's power as high as possible to put as much pressure on your opponent as you can. And then he also has his auto ability that says once per turn, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you choose a face-up Calamity card from your ride deck and remove it. And if you did not remove a card, you choose a over trigger from your ride deck, reveal it, activate all of its trigger effects and additional effects, remove it, and stand all of your rearguards on rearguard circles with a Dragontree marker. So in turns 3 through 5, when you attack with this, you remove one of your calamities that you put back into your ride deck in order to ride into Griphogila in the first place. And then on turn 6, when you don't have any more calamities in your ride deck, you instead get to activate your over trigger directly from the ride deck. So you get the trigger effects and additional effects, so you'll get the draw, you'll get the 100 million power, and you'll get Galmageheld's additional effect, which is the permanent crits added to your Vanguard. And then you also get to restand all of your rearguards on Dragontree markers, so that should be at least your front row from Grifoseed's skill. So you will get 5 attacks on that turn, with one of them being 100 million power, and your Vanguard should be swinging for... By that point, you should have at least 1 more Dragontree marker generated. So your Vanguard should be at least 38k 3 crit by that point, most likely higher than that if you've got more Dragontree markers or you got a booster behind him or whatever. So both your Vanguard and at least one of your rearguards should be swinging for some massive numbers. Now, out of the 5 different Griphogila builds, the over trigger for this deck is probably the least impactful out of the 5. Since, like I said, you want to usually check into Galmageheld early in order to take full advantage of him. But we don't have that option in this deck since we can't possibly go into it earlier than turn 6. So gaining the extra crit and the extra power permanently to your Vanguard isn't as threatening as it would normally be. But if your opponent does somehow manage to survive your over trigger turn, those effects will carry on for the rest of the game. So on turn 7 plus, you will still be able to attack with a Vanguard that is at least 3 crits and some massive numbers. And you'll still be able to restand your rearguards on Dragontree markers as well on any turns past that. So you'll also be a 5 attack per turn deck at that point. So not quite as impactful of a finisher turn as some of the other Griphogila builds, but this deck actually can do quite a bit in the turns leading up to turn 6, so it somewhat makes up for it in that fashion. But still overall a very powerful finisher for the deck. So we got 1 copy of the triple rare Griphogila, and then we also got 3 copies of the double frame rare, just for aesthetic purposes. I usually superior ride into the triple rare, and then persona ride into the double frame rare, just cause I can. So that is the only grade 10 in the deck, so moving on to the grade 3s, we have 2 copies of Heat Haze Acrobat, Miroslava. So she has an auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand during your main phase, you can counterblast 1 to choose a card with grade equal to or less than your Vanguard from your soul, and put it into your hand if you chose a card with the same card name as your Vanguard, and call it to rearguard circle if you did not. And if you put a card into your hand, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this card will allow you to either grab a rearguard or a persona ride copy of your soul, and either get the rearguard onto your board or the persona ride copy into your hand. And if you put the persona ride copy in the hand, she also powers herself up. So it can be a useful toolboxing card, letting you grab what you want from your soul. It combos very nicely with Falcracia, which is one of the grade 2s we'll be going over here in a moment. So you can use this card to cycle Falcracia in and out of your deck and potentially reuse her ability, You can use it to grab any other good rear guard that you randomly soul charged with one of our soul charging abilities in this deck, so you can get them onto board that way. Or you can just cycle your Persona Ride back into your hand in order to be able to ride into it next turn. So either way, it is a +1, and overall it's just a versatile card for this deck. So that is actually all of the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 3 copies of Brawl Field Hydra. So it has an auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand, if you have 3 or more Dragontree markers on your rearguard circles, you can counterblast 1 to choose a grade 3 or less card from your soul and call it to rearguard circle. So this card is very similar to Miroslava. It is a counterblast to just call 1 out from your soul. So you don't have the, grabbing a Persona Ride option that Miroslava gives you. However, this card is a grade 2, so it does have some shield value, where Miroslava does not. So if you want to mess with the ratios of those two a little bit, that is up to you. I went with more Hydras than I did Miroslavas, because you want as much shield power in this deck as possible, since you want to be able to defend effectively to be able to make it to turn 6. But yeah, this is just another way to help you build up your board, and again, it can combo nicely with FuRyu to loop her in and out of your soul. So just another useful option in helping to build up your board. So next we have 2 copies of Generous Evil Swordsman Zalios. So her continuous ability says if this unit is on a rearguard circle with a Dragontree marker, this unit gets a new auto ability that says when this unit intercepts, this unit gets shield plus 5,000 until end of that battle, and she also gets power plus 5,000. So between her own skill and the power up from the Dragontree marker, she'll be a 20k beat stick on your board, who can also be a 10k intercept. So she's a helpful offensive and defensive card, which again, we have ways to cycle her out of drop into your soul. So you actually can possibly loop her with either Brawl Field or Miroslava as well. If you attack with her and then intercept with her and then put her back into your soul and then call her out of soul with those abilities. So she is potentially reusable. She's a very good beat stick for your turn, and then a 10k shield if you intercept with her. Now she can't be a 10k shield from your hand due to the way this is worded, but if you have her out on your board, she does give you that extra defensive power. So again, another versatile card for the deck. So then lastly for the grade 2s, we have 4 copies of Servant Falcratia. So she has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, you can choose up to 1 Dark States from your drop, and this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle for each grade of that card. Then you put the chosen card into your soul. So this ability is basically a free soul charge from your drop every time she attacks a grade 3 or greater unit. So she also gains power for each grade of the card that you put into your soul. So that is potentially up to a 15k power gain if you grab a copy of Miroslava to put into your soul. Now, one thing to note with this card is no, you can't put a copy of Griphogila into your soul with this ability to give her an extra 50k. It'd be really cool if you could do that. But since it does specify a Dark States card, you can't grab Griphogila since he's nationless. Now, one thing I have noticed, this might just be a glitch with Deer Days, honestly, but it actually does allow you to choose the grade 0 nationless Blitz order we have in this deck to put into soul with this ability. Even though I think you shouldn't have that as an option, since again it is nationless and not specifically Dark States. So I don't think that's supposed to be possible. It does not give you the option to put Griphogila, I know that for a fact. But it does give you the option to put the Blitz order, which you wouldn't want to target that anyway, since it's grade 0, Falcratia wouldn't gain any power from it, and you don't gain anything for specifically having it in your soul. So that would be a bad choice anyway, but the game does give you the option to choose that card while not giving you the option to choose Griphogila. So yeah, there's some inconsistency there, which might just be a bug with the game. But yeah, gaining 50k from putting Griphogila into the soul is not a viable thing you can do with this card. But even without that, it does give you that soul resource and a nice power gain of usually at least 10 to 15k if you can grab a grade 2 or 3 from your drop. So still a nice resource gaining and power gaining ability. And she also has her second auto skill that says at the end of your turn, if you have a grade 4 or greater Vanguard, you can put this unit into your soul and draw a card. So just a cycling ability letting you put her to soul and then draw an Ewan. So it's a ±0 since you lose her on your board, but then you get to draw. But it does give you that extra resource since you do gain another soul out of it. And it's also just very effective against like control decks or something where she's going to be getting picked off your board anyway. You can just clear her out in order to replace her with a card in your hand. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you can combo her with Miroslava or Brawlfield in order to call her back out of your soul and potentially use both her abilities again next turn. So still overall a fantastic card for this deck. So that is all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 4 copies of Dragontree Wretch Demon Sherider. So his auto ability says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, you can counterblast 1 to choose one of your rearguard circles without any Dragontree markers and put a Dragontree marker. So this is the primary way to generate your extra Dragontree markers after the 2 you get off of Griffoseed. So you will need to play at least 1 copy of him, usually, in order to get your 3rd marker to give Griphogila his extra crit. And then he's also got an activate ability that says once per turn, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Soul Blast 2 to choose a grade 1 or less card from your soul, and call it to a rearguard circle in the same column as this unit. So this is yet another way to toolbox from your soul and get a grade 1 or less out of your soul onto your board. Now, I don't use this ability as much as Brawlfield or Miroslava's abilities, since this one's a little bit more restrictive. You have to call a grade 1 or less, and the worst part is you have to call a grade 1 or less to the same column that Demon Sherider is in. So that does give you a column of 2 grade 1s, usually, which isn't the best column in the world to build, even with the power-ups from the Dragontree markers. You usually want Demon Sherider behind grade 2 or 3. So, not as useful as some of the other soul calling abilities in this deck, but if you are desperate to build a board, it can still be an option. So next we got 2 copies of Spooky Chirpy. So he has an auto ability that says when this unit boosts, if this unit is on a rearguard circle with a Dragontree marker, you soul charge 1, and this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle. So he has to be sitting on a Dragontree marker in order for this to work. So again, you usually had to use one of your other cards to give you that back row marker for him to sit on. But between the marker's power up and his own, he will be an 18k booster that does let you soul charge whenever you boost with him. So that soul charge is mandatory, so do be mindful and don't deck yourself out or anything, since the games will be going long with this deck, obviously. But he can give you that extra resource every turn, and can be a pretty big booster for one of your units. So still a very cool card for this deck, with some very cool artwork as well. So next we got 3 copies of Steam Battler Gungnam. So he has an auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, you soul charge 1. So again, another soul building ability. And he's also got an activate skill that says once per turn, you can Soul Blast 3 and draw a card. So a nice draw engine for the deck as well. You do end up building quite a bit of soul between Falcratia's skill, his own skill, potentially Spooky Chirpies, and Persona Riding as well. Also builds your soul. So letting you turn all that soul resources into some extra hand size can be very helpful in this deck. So then lastly for the grade 1s, we just have our Sentinel. So we have 4 copies of Repelled Malice Dragon. So just your standard Perfect Guard. And of course you can't use Sanctitude in this deck since your Vanguard's going to be grade 10. So that is all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s. First off, we just have our trigger lineup, which we only have 15 triggers in the main deck since our over triggers in the ride deck. So I am just running rainbow triggers. So we got 4 crit, 3 front, 4 draw, and 4 heal. So starting first with the crit triggers. We have 4 copies of Stem Deviate Dragon. So, crit with a skill at the end of the ballot boosted, you can put in your soul to give someone plus 2k. I don't use that ability very much. You generally don't want to give up that 15k shield in order to do that. But it is an option, I guess, if you really need some more soul for some reason. Next for the fronts, we got 3 copies of Diabolos Girls Natalia. So, front with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, get shield plus 5,000. So, your 20k shield front trigger. Next for the draws, we got 4 copies of Rowell's Wildmaster Riley. So, draw with a skill, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, shield plus 5,000. So, your 10k shield draw trigger. And then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Direful Doll Alexandra. So just the vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to play any of the effect heals, you can. And then the last grade 0 in the deck is 2 copies of our Calamity Blitz Order Corrosive Smoke Signals. So there's no cost to play it, and you can play it if you have a Hydrogram Vanguard, which Hydrogram is the race of all the Dragontree guards. And it lets you choose one of your rear guard circles without any Dragontree markers, put a Dragontree marker, then choose one of your units being attacked, and it gets power plus 10,000 until end of that battle. And if you have a Vanguard with Griphogila in its card name, it gets power plus 20,000 instead of plus 10,000. So either a 10k shield early or a 20k shield later in the game after you've ridden into Griphogila. But either way, it does give you another Dragontree marker onto one of your rear guard circles that doesn't already have one. Which, the only marker generating skill in this deck that can put markers on the circle that already has one is Grifoseeds. So if you play this before you ride into Griphogila, you actually can stack 2 Dragontree markers on the same rear guard circle. And that's actually the only way to do that in this deck. But if you do that, the power gain from them will stack, so that'll give the rear guard on that circle an extra 10k. So if you do end up playing it early, even though you get the less shield out of it, you do have that fringe benefit as well, of being able to stack your Dragontree markers. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our one fight with it. So let's see, we'll fight Sophie this time. And we will be going first. Alright, so we want to end the phase without riding, and use Grifoseed's ability to put beginning of the end into our soul, which will give him an extra 2k, and then we just end our turn. And I'm gonna let that one through. And we get a front trigger. So she's gonna need a trigger to even hit us, so I'm gonna let that one through. And she did not get one. So once again, we do not want to ride, and instead use Grifoseed's ability to add Ill Omen Transmogrification to our soul. Bring him to 10k. And then we can once again just attack. And I'm actually going to go after one of our brainwash swirlers here. And I think I'll let that one through. And we get a heal trigger, which we do get. So a heal 1. And once again, she needs a trigger for that to hit, so I'm going to take the chance and let it through. And again, she did not get one. Alright, so one more time, we do not ride. And instead use Griphogila to automatically put Coming of Demise to soul. So then we can send all 3 calamities back to the ride deck. To superior ride from our main deck, Griphogila. So then we'll get 2 Dragontree markers, and we're going to put them on the front row. So then I will go ahead and call Gunram back here. And use his ability to soul charge one. So then we will call Servant Falcratia and Zalios. And unfortunately we couldn't get our 3rd Dragontree marker, so Griphogila will only be at 1 crit. But we will go ahead and attack with Griphogila first. And use his ability to remove Beginning of the End from the ride deck. So then I'm gonna have Falcratia attack into Kit's Peak. And then we'll have Zalios attack Brainwash Swirler. And now during the end phase, we can use Falcratia's 2nd ability to put her to soul and draw.
Vanguard にアタック。スキル発動。私の魔法はスキルがいっぱいですよ。バインド。
And she did get to bind 4 crit triggers. So she'll get to retire Zalios and gain a crit and gain a drive. And power up our units for soul blasting triggers. So I'm gonna guard this with that front. And that'll be 2 to pass.
ドライブチェックオーバートリガー
Or 1 if she gets her over trigger.
プラスドライブチ
So
ェッ
that is not good, because that's 3 crit now.
クドライブチェック必殺の一撃あなたにしのぎきれますか
So that's going to put us directly to 4.
すごいな。ダメージチェック。ヒールトリガー。
Oh, maybe not. We get a heal trigger once we do get.
パワー
So I'll be going to 3.
ダメージチェック。ダメージチェック。クリティカルトリガー。
And we'll get a crit trigger as well.
クリティカルプラス。パワープラス。
ヴァンガードにアタック
Which means Tyrannodina actually won't be able to hit us. So we'll guard that one with that crit.
ガー
ターンエンド
ド。俺のターン。ドロー。
Alright, so we can Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド。
And then we'll call Demon Sheridan from our hand and put him over here. And we'll use his ability to counterblast one.
発動。
And we get another Dragontree marker, which I will put over here actually. So that gives Griphogila an extra crit. So then I'm going to call Brawlfield Hydra
コール。
from the hand and use his ability to counterblast.
スキル発動。
And we can superior call Spooky Chirpy from the soul
スペリオルコール。
back there. And we'll also go ahead and use Gungram's activate ability to Soul Blast 3.
スキル発動。
And draw. And then we'll call Servant Falcratia over here. And I think we are good. So we will attack with Griphogila first.
ヴァンガードにアタック。
And use his ability
ギーラのスキル発動。
to remove Ill Omen Transmogrification.
ノーガード
ドライブチェッ
She lets it through.
ク。ドライブチェック。今度はさっきより痛いぞ。
あららダメージチェックヒールトリガーパワー
And she
プラ
gets
ス
a heal trigger when she does not get. She gets the power. So then I'm going to have Falcratia attack her Vanguard. And we'll use Falcratia's ability to put a grade 2 from our drop to soul. So I'll put
パワ
Zalios
ープラス。
to give her an extra 10k.
ノーガードやるじゃ
So
ん
let's that one through
ダメ
2.
ージチェックドロートリガー
She gets a draw trigger. So then we'll have Hydra attack into Kit's Peak, actually.
アタック。
And Spooky Chirpy will let us soul charge and gain another 5k.
ノーガード
ターン。
So now again during the end phase, Falcratia will go to our soul
発動。
and we draw.
星の指し示す運命は変えられないペルソナライド
And she does get her Persona Ride.
スキル発動バインドパワープラスコールヴァンガードにアタックスキル発動さあ解き放つ星々から借り受けし力
So Astroa is at full strength, so she'll get a retire. She takes out Gunram, gains another crit, and an extra drive. And she gets to power up her units again. And Botus's skill will let her retire another one of our rear guards, so she takes out Hydra. So that is 3 crits, so we're going to have to perfect guard that one. And we will drop... we'll drop one of these Hydras, I guess. She gets another heal trigger when she gets this time.
Vanguard にアタック。スキル発動。
And that is massive, so I'm gonna let that one through.
Vanguard にアタック。
And I'm gonna have to let that one through too. Alright, so again we can Persona Ride. And I am going to call Brawl Field Hydra once again. And use his ability to Counterblast. And we'll call Falcratia back out from the Soul. And we'll also call Gunram to back row center. And he'll let us Soul Charge once again. And then his Activate ability will let us Soul Blast. And draw. So then we will attack with Griphogila first. And Griphogila will remove Coming of Demise, our last calamity, as she perfect guards. And we'll get a draw trigger, so we'll give that to Hydra. And we get a heal trigger, which we do get. So we will heal 1. And give that power to Falcratia. So then we'll have Falcratia attack her Vanguard. And use her skill. And we'll put one of these Hydras into Soul to gain 10k. And I'm gonna have Hydra attack Botus actually. And Spooky Chirpy will let us Soul Charge and gain another 5k. So then Falcratia moves to Soul, and we draw once more. And I really wish we didn't Soul Charge that perfect guard just now. But at least she didn't get her Persona Ride this time.
コールヴァンガードにアタックスキル発動さあ解き放て星々から下流消し力
But she does have her full strength of Astrola, so she retires Gungram
プラス
and gains a crit and a drive.
パワープラス
And Botus retires Hydra as well.
パワープラススキル発動パワープラススキル発動パワープラス
So I am going to play our Calamity Blitz Order,
ブリッツオーダ
Corrosive Smoke Signals. So that'll give us one more Dragontree marker, which I'll put
ー
there.
プラス
And that gives Griphogila an extra 20k. And I'll add that draw on top. And that'll be 2 to pass.
ガー
ドライブチェックドライブチェックドライブチェックヴァンガードにアタックスキル発動
So we'll guard that one with this front.
ドガード
ヴァンガードにアタック
And I'll let that one through.
ノーガード君は本当に最高だよダメージチェック
ターンエンド
俺のターンドロー
Alright, so this will be our big push turn, but she's got 11 cards in her hand. So let's see if we can pull it off. So first we will Persona Ride.
ペルソナライド
So first I am going to call Miroslava
コール
and use her ability
スキル発動
to Counter Blast. And from our soul, we will grab Falcratia, put her over here,
コール
and I am actually going to call Demon Charioteer over top of Spooky Chirpy just because I'm really close to decking out. And we'll go ahead and use his ability
スキル発動
to gain one more Dragontree marker. And then we'll call our last Demon Charioteer too,
コール
and not use his ability because all our circles already have markers on them. So then we will attack with Miroslava first.
ヴァンガードにアタック
ノーガー
She lets that one through.
ドダメージチェック
So then we can attack with
ヴァンガ
Falcratia
ードにアタック
and use Falcratia's skill to add Hydra to our soul
パワープラス
and gain 10k. And she perfect guards.
発動完全ガード
So then we can attack with Griphogila
ヴァンガードにアタック
and use his skill.
力が解放される
And we have no calamities to remove, so that means we get to activate Galmageheld. So we draw one, and we give 100 million power, which I'm going to give to Miroslava.
パワープラス
And then Griphogila gains 10k and a crit, bringing him to 71,003 crit.
スキル発動
But she does perfect guard,
完全ガー
but
ド
all our rear guards restood.
ドロートリガー
And we got a draw trigger. So we'll give that to Falcratia.
パワープラスドライブチェックヒールトリガー
And we got a heal trigger, but we only got one card left in our deck. So we'll heal 1. And we'll give that to Falcratia as well.
パワープラス
So now we'll attack with Miroslava for 100,041,000.
ノーガー
Oh, she got laid through.
ダメージチェック
And we got her with that one.
君は本当に素晴らしいファイターだ
So we cut that very close with only one card left in the deck. But we did manage to pull it off. So there you go. That was my Dark States Griphogila deck. So I will be back soon with more deck profiles. Next up I will be doing the last variant of Griphogila, which will be the Brantgate version of the deck. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.